I began living with a woman 12 years my senior. On the first night, which I thought was perfect, I came face to face with a truth I could never have imagined. I'm 26 this year, what people call the prime of your life. But for Ethan Miller, a nondescript software developer navigating the glittering labyrinth of New York City, every morning was a war against a crushing loneliness. A cramped studio apartment, tucked deep in a narrow street in Astoria, Queens, was the entirety of my world. The famous New York sunlight never quite managed to breach my window. Only the blue glow of my computer monitor served as my constant companion, day and night. My job is to write code, to build virtual worlds for other people. But ironically, my own real world was empty and painfully dull. Every morning at 6 a.m., sharp, the piercing shriek of my alarm dragged me from a restless dream back to reality. I'd force my stiff body upright and survey the cluttered room. Clothes were carelessly thrown over the single chair, and in a corner, a tower of instant ramen containers leaned precariously. Next to my desk, programming textbooks were stacked so high, they looked ready to collapse. A sigh escaped my lips. A wave of emptiness washed over me. My parents, back home in our small town in Ohio, would call sometimes, their voices laced with worry. Ethan, honey, is work going okay? You have to make sure you're eating proper meals. Then, inevitably, you're 26 already. Isn't there a nice girl you're seeing? Each time, I'd force a cheerful laugh and brush it off. Of course, Mom. I'm doing great, don't worry. Love will happen when it happens. But when it happened supposed to be? I had tried. Well-meaning aunts from my hometown had set me up a few times. I'd book an Amtrak ticket, travel back to Ohio, put on my cleanest clothes, and head to the designated meeting spot with a small, awkward gift in hand. But the result was always the same. A dreadful silence after the first meeting. They must have seen how awkward and clumsy I was. I didn't know how to say charming things to a woman or how to win her heart. In front of a stranger, especially a woman, I turned into a block of wood. My mind would go blank, and my tongue would feel like lead. The women I was set up with all said the same things, that I was too much of a nice guy or seemed to lack ambition. After a few of those experiences, I was exhausted. I feared the feeling of being judged and rejected. I retreated into a shell of my own making, burying myself in work and code. In New York City, a modest salary barely stretched to cover rent and groceries after sending a little money home to my parents. There was hardly anything left. The future felt as dark and narrow as the alley outside my apartment. Will I live like this, alone, for the rest of my life? On weekend evenings, I could hear the laughter of couples walking hand in hand outside my window. Each time, a corner of my heart would ache. I, too, longed for a warm, home-cooked dinner waiting for me. I wanted to hear someone say, "You worked hard today." When I came home from a late night at the office, I desperately craved a shoulder to lean on when I was tired. That desperation grew day by day, gnawing at my soul. The thought that I had to escape this cycle spurred me into action. Then, one late night, while wrestling with a stubborn bug in my code, I stumbled upon an ad. An online dating app called Elysian Connect. The slogan, "Find the person your fate intended," caught my eye. Maybe in this virtual world, I could find someone who would see my true self, I thought. At least here, I could express myself, with carefully chosen sentences, instead of clumsy words. After much hesitation, my loneliness won. I took a deep breath and pressed the download button. It took me an entire night to set up my Elysian Connect profile. Which photo should I use so I don't look like a hick? What should I write in my bio so I don't sound like a boring person? Everything felt as unfamiliar and complicated as a new programming language. In the end, I chose a picture that a friend had candidly taken of me while I was working, one where I looked reasonably intelligent. For my bio, I wrote just a few short lines. Ethan Miller, 26, software developer, hoping to meet someone sincere and kind. Even I had to admit it was a painfully uninteresting introduction. The first few days on the app were no different from my reality. Hundreds, thousands of profiles swiped past my screen. Young, beautiful women, confident bios. I timidly liked a few, but never got a response. In a garden of vibrant flowers, my profile must have looked like a common weed. I was about to delete the app out of boredom when a profile appeared that made my finger freeze. The woman in the photo had a remarkably warm smile. Her long, dark hair was tied up neatly, revealing an intelligent forehead. Her eyes didn't sparkle like those of the younger women, but they were soft and deep, as if they held the wisdom of a life fully lived. She was wearing a simple white blouse, yet she exuded an air of elegance and sophistication. And her bio surprised me even more. Sophia Hayes, 38, entrepreneur. I've weathered many of life's storms. Now, I'm just looking for a peaceful harbor. 38, a full 12 years older than me. At first, I hesitated. Is this really okay? But her smile and the look in her eyes lingered in my mind. There was something about her that put me at ease, something I had never felt with women my own age. I could sense a maturity and calm that only someone who knows life's true value could possess. Looking for a peaceful harbor. That single phrase resonated in the deepest, loneliest part of my soul. I needed a harbor like that, too. Mustering up my courage, I pressed like and sent a short, awkward message. Hi, Sophia. My name is Ethan. It's nice to meet you. I didn't expect much. A successful, beautiful woman like her must be flooded with messages from men. I figured mine would be lost in the deluge. That night, as I was pouring hot water into a cup of instant ramen, my phone buzzed. An Elysian Connect notification. My heart pounded in my chest. With trembling hands, I checked it. It was a reply from Sophia. Hi Ethan, it's nice to meet you too. It was just a single, short sentence, but it filled my heart with an indescribable joy. I felt like a man lost in the desert who had just stumbled upon an oasis. That night, for the first time in years, I fell asleep with a smile on my face. In my gray, monotonous life, a small but brilliant spark of hope had just been ignited. From that day on, my phone became an extension of my body. The highlight of my day was returning to my cramped studio after work and chatting with her. At first, my shy nature got the better of me, and I could only ask generic questions like, "Have you eaten?" or "How was your day?" But Sophia was different. She always guided the conversation naturally, making me feel completely at ease. She asked about my job as a programmer, saying it sounded fascinating but was a field she knew nothing about. As if she had scratched an itch I never knew I had. I excitedly talked for hours about coding, algorithms, and the projects I was working on. I told her about the joy of fixing a single tiny bug after an all-nighter, the thrill of seeing a program run successfully. Far from being bored, she listened intently and sometimes asked questions so sharp they surprised me. I realized she wasn't just beautiful, she was incredibly intelligent. Ethan, your work sounds really tough. Sitting in front of a computer for so long must be hard on your back and eyes. Please make sure you take care of your health. Reading her message, my eyes suddenly stung. Besides my parents back in Ohio, it had been so long since anyone had shown that kind of concern for my well-being. We began sharing deeper stories. She talked about her business, the pressure that came with it, and her frequent business trips. She told me about a man she had deeply loved in the past, but they had broken up because he couldn't understand her dedication to her career. She said that now, she wasn't looking for a dramatic, movie-like romance, but a partner with a true and warm heart to spend the rest of her life with. I like sincere and gentle men like you, Ethan. Talking with you makes me feel so peaceful. Her words were like gentle rain on my parched heart. I felt respected, understood. Our conversations often lasted until the early hours of the morning. She would tell me to get some sleep, yet she would stay up with me, keeping me company through the night. Knowing that I often work late, she would message me without fail around 11 p.m. Are you done with work? Don't push yourself too hard. One night, I was so exhausted that I fell asleep with my head on my keyboard. When I woke up around 3 a.m. and checked my phone, there was a message from her. You must have been exhausted. Sleep well, my brilliant developer. My brilliant developer. Those 3 words sounded so affectionate, so sweet. I felt like I was no longer alone in the world. We had never met in person, but it felt as if our souls were already connected by an invisible thread. With a gentleness and subtlety born from life experience, Sophia brought warmth back into my heart, which had been cold for so long. I began to dream of a future with her. Around that time, The project at my company was an absolute war zone. The entire team was working around the clock to meet a tight deadline for a major client in Japan. As one of the lead developers, the pressure on my shoulders was immense. I was practically living at the office. My body, fueled by caffeine and energy drinks, felt like it was made of lead, and my meals consisted of convenience store sandwiches or instant ramen. Through it all, Sophia's messages were the only thing that kept me going. One Friday night, the whole team was pulling an all-nighter to hit the deadline. By 10 p.m., everyone was so exhausted, they could barely keep their eyes open, but I still had my face glued to the monitor, hunting for a bug. I was starving, and my head was spinning. I rested my head on the desk for a moment, and the thought of just giving up on everything washed over me. Just then, my phone buzzed. It was Sophia. Still at the office? Have you eaten dinner? I typed a weary reply. Yeah, still working. Looks like instant ramen for dinner again tonight. She didn't reply right away. I got absorbed in my work again, and didn't think much of it. About 30 minutes later, a delivery guy walked into our office and called out, "Delivery for an Ethan Miller?" I stood up, confused. I hadn't ordered any food. The delivery guy handed me a warm paper bag and said with a smile, "A very beautiful woman ordered this for you. She said to make sure you eat it, since you're working so hard." I took the bag and stood there, frozen. Inside was a container of steaming hot chicken noodle soup and a few of my favorite snacks. Taped to the lid of the soup container was a small sticky note with elegant handwriting. "Eat this while it's warm. Don't work too late. I worry about you, Sophia." In the middle of the office, it felt like time had stopped. Her warmth, richer than the savory aroma of the soup, filled my entire being. My colleagues looked at me with a mixture of envy and curiosity. "Wow, Ethan, your girlfriend has some serious class." I smiled shyly, but my heart was overflowing with sweetness. I went to a corner desk and slowly ate the soup. With every spoonful, I could feel her warmth spreading through my body. It was the most delicious meal I had eaten since moving to New York. Sophia's small gesture had completely captured my heart. It wasn't about fancy words. It was a sincere act of kindness delivered exactly when I needed it most. The fact that someone was genuinely thinking of me and worrying about me was overwhelming. That night, after finishing the soup, I felt a strange surge of energy. I finished my work perfectly, and before leaving, I sent her a long message, filled with my gratitude and emotions. She replied shortly after, "If you're happy, I'm happy. Get some good rest tomorrow." I knew it then. I was in love. I had fallen in love with this incredible woman who felt like she had given me the whole world, not just a bowl of soup. 3 dreamlike months passed. My feelings for Sophia deepened with each passing day. Our late-night conversations became an essential part of my life, and we grew to share everything: work, family, and our deepest insecurities. I told her about my childhood in rural Ohio and my simple dreams. She, in turn, opened up about the places she'd traveled, her favorite books, and the loneliness that a successful woman often faces. The more we talked, the more I felt we were soulmates, transcending our age difference. The 12-year gap no longer felt like a barrier. If anything, my earnestness and her maturity seemed to complement each other perfectly. I had suggested meeting in person several times, but she always gently declined. She said she wanted us to take the time to understand each other's inner selves through our messages, before being influenced by physical appearances. "I'm scared that if we meet, I won't be what you imagined. I'm scared you'll be disappointed, Ethan. I'm so much older than you, after all." She said it like a joke, but I could hear the faint insecurity of an older woman hidden within her words. It only made her more endearing to me, and I told her time and again that age didn't matter at all. What mattered was her soul. Then, one weekend evening, in the middle of a conversation, Sophia suddenly went quiet. Did something happen? I worriedly sent a message, and a few moments later, a reply came that completely stunned me. "Ethan, should we meet? And I don't mean just for coffee. How about you come to my place and we try living together for a while?" I read the message again and again. Living together? I couldn't believe my eyes. It was such a bold and sudden proposal. For me, a 26-year-old with almost no dating experience, to have a mature, beautiful woman suggest cohabitation, My mind was in a whirl. On one hand, I was afraid, isn't this too fast? Is this okay? But on the other hand, an uncontrollable joy and excitement bubbled up inside me. Wasn't this exactly what I had been dreaming of? A life where I could wake up next to the person I love every day, eat meals together, and watch movies. It was an incredibly sweet dream. Seeing my hesitation, Sophia sent another message. I know it's sudden, but we've been talking for 3 months, and I feel like we know each other pretty well. There are things you can't know just from texting. I want to see if we're compatible in daily life too. If it works out, we can move toward a deeper relationship. If not, we can remain good friends. I don't want to waste any more time, Ethan. At my age, time is the most precious thing. Her words were logical and showed her sincerity about our relationship. With that, all the hesitation in my heart vanished. She had taken the first brave step. I couldn't back down like a coward. I took a deep breath and typed out each word with determination. Okay, I want to be with you too, Sophia. The moment I hit send, my heart felt like it was going to burst. A new chapter of my life was about to begin, and that chapter was called Happiness and Sophia Hayes. We decided to meet the following Saturday afternoon. For the entire week leading up to our meeting, I was restless, like a child waiting for Christmas morning. I couldn't focus on work. Every few minutes, I would open my phone to look at her picture, and find myself smiling foolishly. I imagined what she would wear, what she would say when she saw me for the first time, and how I should act to appear more mature. On the day of our meeting, I woke up at dawn and deep cleaned my messy studio apartment, as if she were about to visit. Then I went to a barbershop to get my shaggy hair trimmed. I rummaged through my entire closet and pulled out my favorite white button-down shirt and a pair of black slacks I only wore on special occasions. Knowing it was a bit cheesy, I stopped by a flower shop and bought a bouquet of red roses. I wanted to give her only the best and most beautiful things. The meeting place was a quaint cafe in Greenwich Village. I arrived 15 minutes early and sat at a corner table with a clear view of the entrance. My hands, holding the bouquet, were clammy, and my heart beat erratically. Every time the door opened, my heart skipped a beat. And then, she walked in. A sea green silk dress highlighted her fair skin and slender figure. Her dark hair, which fell to her shoulders, looked even more vibrant than in the photos. She looked much younger than 38. Of course, up close, I could see faint lines around her eyes, but even those only added to her elegant and mature charm. She spotted me and smiled. It was the smile from her picture, a smile so warm and gentle, it could melt a man's frozen heart. I scrambled to my feet, held out the bouquet with both hands, and stammered, Sophia, these are for you. She laughed, a clear, bright sound, and took the bouquet, inhaling its fragrance. Thank you, Ethan, they're beautiful. You're even more handsome in person. Her compliment made my face flush. The initial awkwardness quickly faded. In person, Sophia was even more captivating than she was online. She led the conversation with wit and humor, and I soon found myself completely engrossed in her stories. But what made my heart flutter the most was her subtle thoughtfulness. When she noticed I had finished my coffee, she naturally signaled the waiter. When I hesitated, unsure of what to say, she skillfully changed the topic to something I was passionate about. At one point, without a moment's hesitation, she reached out and gently smoothed a piece of my hair that the wind had messed up. When her soft, warm fingers brushed against my cheek, I felt a jolt of electricity run through my entire body. In that moment, I was completely conquered. I thought to myself, for this woman, I would risk everything in my life. After leaving the cafe, Sophia suggested we get dinner. She knew a wonderfully romantic rooftop restaurant in a building in Midtown. I, of course, said yes. Every second with her was precious. Her sleek, white Lexus sedan glided smoothly through the New York nightscape. Sitting in the passenger seat, I stole glances at her profile as she drove, focused and professional. It was incredibly sexy. The restaurant was a fantastical place, with a panoramic view of the city's glittering skyline. The candlelight, soft music, and cool evening breeze created an intensely romantic atmosphere. I felt like the star of a romance movie. Sophia, clearly at home in such places, expertly ordered from the menu and selected a red wine that she said would pair perfectly with the steak. All I could do was stare at her in awe, my fork forgotten. During the meal, she skillfully guided the conversation. She never explicitly asked about money, but the topic circled around my job and income. Ethan, as a developer, your income must be pretty stable. They say tech is the place to be these days, she asked casually, as she cut her steak. I answered naively, oh, it's just enough to get by. After rent and sending some money to my parents, there isn't much left over. She nodded with a look of understanding. The cost of living in New York is insane, but you're young and talented, Ethan. Your future is bright. Do you have any plans, like buying a house or a car someday? It felt like a slightly sudden question, but because I believed she was seriously thinking about our future, I answered honestly, I've thought about it, but it's a distant dream. With my current salary, it would take me at least 10 years of saving just to make a down payment on a small apartment on the outskirts of the city. Hearing this, she gave an unreadable smile. Then, raising her wine glass, she said softly, a man should have ambitions like that. But I don't really care about material things. What's important is that we truly love each other and work hard together. You can't buy feelings with money, can you? I was deeply moved by her words. I thought I was the luckiest man in the world to have met such a profound woman who valued a person's heart over money. I had no idea that behind those gentle words was a sharp calculation, assessing my financial status and investment potential. She continued to ask about my family home in Ohio and my parents' occupations. I held nothing back, telling her everything, never dreaming that every piece of information I provided was being meticulously analyzed in her mind, like a potential asset being evaluated. Dinner ended in a warm and intimate atmosphere. I was intoxicated, not by the wine, but by her affection and thoughtfulness. After the meal, I assumed she would drop me off at my studio in Queens, but she drove towards a new high-rise condominium complex in Midtown. We're going to my place. We agreed to live together, didn't we? Don't tell me you've changed your mind already, she said, turning to me with a playful smile. My heart did another somersault. My place. Those two words sounded so intimate, so seductive. I just nodded silently. The car stopped in front of one of the most exclusive luxury condos in the city. A doorman in a crisp uniform bowed respectfully as he greeted her. We took a private elevator up to her apartment. Located on the 25th floor, her home boasted a breathtaking view of the Manhattan skyline and the Hudson River. The moment the door opened, a glamorous and sophisticated space unfolded before my eyes. A modern interior, decorated in shades of white and gray, gleaming marble floors, a luxurious leather sofa in the center of the living room, and a magnificent crystal chandelier hanging from the ceiling. Everything looked like it came from a movie about the fabulously wealthy. I was completely overwhelmed. Sophia came up behind me, wrapped her arms around my waist, and whispered in my ear, "What do you think of our home? Do you like it?" I turned to her and said in an awestruck voice, "It's like a dream." She smiled, satisfied. "Well, this is our home now." I was so overcome with happiness that I couldn't speak. Do I, a regular developer, really deserve all this? As if reading my thoughts, she pulled me into a tighter hug and said, "Don't think about useless things. I love you for who you are, Ethan. These material things don't mean anything. Move your stuff in starting tomorrow." She gave me a tour of the apartment. Her bedroom had a massive bed and a walk-in closet filled with designer clothes and handbags. Pointing to one half of the closet, she said, "I've cleared this space for you. Let's share." That night, I lay in the unfamiliar but cloud-like bed next to the woman I loved. The subtle fragrance of her hair filled the air. I didn't dare touch her. I just quietly watched her sleeping face. A deep sense of gratitude welled up from the bottom of my heart. I truly believed that there would be no more lonely days in my life, that my dream of building a happy family had finally come true. But I had no idea that all of it was just the prologue to a perfectly orchestrated play that was just beginning. The first week of living with Sophia was absolute heaven. I moved all my belongings from the cramped studio to her apartment. She was so thoughtful she even set up a dedicated desk for me by the sunny balcony. Every morning, I no longer woke up in loneliness. Instead, I was roused by the rich aroma of coffee from the kitchen and the sounds of her preparing breakfast. She was always up before me, preparing a perfect breakfast of toast, fried eggs, and orange juice, urging me to eat well before heading to work. Throughout the day at the office, I'd receive sweet messages from her like, "Did you eat lunch? Make sure you eat something delicious." And when I came home, she would greet me at the door with a smile, still in her work attire but wearing cute slippers. Dinner was always a lavish spread of my favorite dishes. She told me she had remembered all the foods I liked from our previous conversations. We would chatter about our days over the meal, and I felt the genuine warmth of a family. After dinner, we would watch movies together on the huge TV in the living room. She would rest her head on my shoulder and naturally find my hand, interlocking her fingers with mine. Every one of those small gestures melted my heart. From laying out my clothes for the next morning to doing my laundry and ironing, she did everything perfectly. "Don't worry about these little things," she'd say. "Just focus on your work and make a lot of money to take care of our future." Every time I heard that, I vowed to work harder, to repay her love and sacrifice. On weekends, she would take me shopping, or for drives out of the city. She bought me expensive brand name clothes, saying they suited me, and thanks to her, I began to look and feel more stylish and confident. She introduced me to her friends, proudly calling me her boyfriend, and they all said we made a great couple, and that I was a lucky guy. I was completely lost in the sweetness and happiness, thinking I was the luckiest man in the world. Everything was so perfect that sometimes I wondered if it was all real. Sophia gave me everything a lonely, love-starved man could ever want. I fell madly in love with her, and became more and more dependent on her care. I trusted her without a shred of doubt, never imagining that her every word and action was part of a meticulously crafted script. About a week into our blissful cohabitation, I had fully adjusted to life with her, fantasizing about our marriage and future children. But amidst this perfect happiness, a tiny, almost imperceptible sense of unease began to creep in. We lived in the same house and shared the same bed, but we had never gone beyond light hugs and kisses. Whenever I tried to initiate a deeper intimacy, Sophia would skillfully push me away. One night, overcome with emotion, I held her in my arms, wanting to express all my love for her. But she gently pushed me away and said, "Honey, let's not rush things. I want to save the most precious moments for our wedding night. I'm a bit of a traditional girl that way. I hope you can understand." Her words were so reasonable that I couldn't argue. I felt ashamed of my own impatience, and came to respect her pure values even more. But the rejections continued. 1, 2, 3 times, each with a different reason. She was tired. It was that time of the month. Or she wasn't mentally ready yet. Her deliberate distancing started to feel less like a woman's shyness, and more like a calculated evasion. A vague anxiety began to sprout in my mind. Furthermore, Sophia was intensely secretive about her personal connections. She never once introduced me to her family. When she told me her parents had passed away early and she was all alone, I just felt even more sympathy for her. Her phone was always locked, and whenever she got a call, she would always step out onto the balcony to take it, or end the call quickly. I tried to reassure myself. I'm just being paranoid. She's been through a lot, so she's just being cautious. I didn't want to doubt the woman I loved. But once planted, the seed of doubt began to grow quietly in a corner of my mind. And it didn't take long for that seed to grow into a monstrous tree. It was a Wednesday night, 2 weeks after we started living together, the fateful night that would turn my life upside down. That day, an unexpected problem came up at work, and I had to work late. I didn't get home until nearly midnight. The living room light was on, but Sophia was nowhere to be seen. I figured she was asleep in the bedroom and quietly made my way to the kitchen. But as I passed her home office, a room I had rarely entered, I heard a faint whispering sound from inside. The door was slightly ajar. Driven by curiosity, I peered through the crack. Sophia was sitting in front of her laptop with a headset on, having a video call with someone. Her face, illuminated by the monitor's glow, was not the face I knew. The warmth was gone, replaced by a cold, sharp expression. I held my breath and listened. I couldn't hear the other person's voice through her headset, but I could hear hers clearly. and the words she spoke were like a bucket of ice water poured over my head, freezing me to the spot. Don't worry. This sucker is completely hooked. He's such a naive country boy, it was a piece of cake to reel him in. A few more days of sweet talking and the money will come. Her voice was filled with contempt and calculation. He's so gullible, he believes every word I say. His salary isn't much, so he won't have a lot saved up. But I should be able to siphon at least $5,000 out of him. Got to pay the rent on this place somehow. Every word she spoke was a dagger to my heart. Sucker? Country boy? Siphon money? Was this really the same Sophia I loved and respected, the woman who promised to be my peaceful harbor? Unaware of my presence, she continued the call. Yeah. Once I'm done with this one, I'll move on to the next target. Elysian Connect is full of lonely, pathetic losers. Oh, I should go. It's about time for him to get home. Kisses, honey. She puckered her lips at the screen. Blowing a kiss, I staggered back, my back hitting the cold wall. My whole body was trembling. The rose-tinted world she had built for me shattered in an instant. The love, the concern, the warm meals, the gentle touches, it was all a lie. I was nothing but a victim in a scam. A piece of prey. Pain, rage, and disgust rose in my throat. I wanted to burst through the door, smash everything, and scream in her face. But something held me back. Calm down. I need more proof. I have to find out this woman's true face. I quietly returned to the living room and collapsed onto the sofa. The darkness swallowed me. The glamorous New York night had, in that moment, become my personal hell. After that horrific night, I could barely sleep. I pretended to be asleep in bed, but my mind was racing. Even the sound of the woman's breathing beside me felt repulsive. The next morning, I had to act as if nothing had happened. I ate the breakfast she prepared and made small talk with a smile. But a violent storm was raging inside me. As soon as Sophia left for work, I began to search her apartment. I knew it was wrong, but I had no other choice. I started with her home office, the scene of last night's call. The door was locked, but I was a developer. Picking a simple lock wasn't that difficult. The desk and drawers were filled with legitimate-looking contracts and documents, but my eyes fell on a small safe hidden behind a painting on the wall. I had no way of opening it. I tried her birth date, a few seemingly random numbers, but nothing worked. Then, as I nudged a stack of books on her desk, a small, black leather-bound notebook fell to the floor. My heart pounded. Instinctively, I knew this was what I was looking for. With trembling hands, I opened it. It wasn't a diary. It was filled with chilling, meticulously handwritten notes. It was a scam playbook. Each page detailed a target's information. Name, age, occupation, salary, hometown, personality, and even their psychological weaknesses. There were over a dozen men's names. Next to each name was a detailed scenario. Target A, 30, doctor. Recently broke up with girlfriend. Needs comfort. Scenario, play the role of a mature older woman who understands his pain. Target B, 28, construction engineer. Lonely from living far from home. Scenario, play the role of a sweet, domestic woman who is a great cook. I flipped through the pages frantically until I found my name. Ethan Miller, 26, developer. Salary modest, from Ohio. Introverted and naive. Lacks dating experience. Romanticizes the idea of family. Weakness, easily moved by small gestures of kindness, trusts people too easily. Below it, every action and line of dialogue was pre-planned. From the initial approach on Elysian Connect to the late-night wellness messages, the touching chicken soup delivery, the bold suggestion to live together, and the method of winning me over with cooking and shopping. It even listed the costs invested in me: the flowers, the restaurant bill, the clothes, and the target profit, $9,000. My mind went blank. I wasn't the one. I was just one of many victims. The realization that every moment I believed to be genuine love was a thoroughly calculated performance made the blood in my veins run cold. Rage consumed me. I gripped the notebook tightly. I can't let her get away with this. I can't let this woman and her accomplices continue to deceive other decent people. I immediately took photos of every page of the notebook with my phone. Then I put it back in its original spot, erased any trace of my search, and left the office. That evening, the play I had read about in the notebook began. During dinner, Sophia suddenly put on a sad expression, her eyes welling up with tears. I feigned concern. Sophia, is something wrong? She looked at me with tear-filled eyes and struggled to speak. Her mother back home had suddenly collapsed from a heart condition and needed emergency surgery. The medical bills, she said, amounted to $5,000. She claimed she had recently invested all her money into her business and had no liquid cash. Her lines, her every tear, matched the script in the notebook perfectly. If I hadn't known the truth, I would have given her everything I had, without a second thought. Her pathetic act was nauseating, but I suppressed my disgust and put on a look of deep concern. I took her hand and comforted her. Don't worry so much. Your mother's health is the most important thing. We'll figure out the money somehow. She looked at me with hopeful eyes and sobbed. Ethan, could you possibly lend me $5,000? I'll pay you back soon. As soon as my business funds come through, I'll pay you back with interest. Think of it as helping your future mother-in-law. Future mother-in-law, the words sounded so sickeningly fake. It was time to make my move. I decided to conduct a little experiment. After pretending to think for a long time, I spoke with a troubled expression. $5,000 is a lot of money for me. I've only managed to save about $2,000 over the last few years. The rest I have to send to my parents. The instant I said that, I didn't miss the flicker of disappointment in her eyes. She quickly masked it with a pained expression. Oh, I see. If you don't have it, you don't have it. I'll figure something else out. I guess this is just my mom's fate. She buried her face on the table and began to cry pitifully. It was a truly masterful performance. I took a deep breath and played my final card. Sophia, don't cry. I don't have $5,000, but I can lend you $1,000. It's not a lot, but maybe it can help with the immediate costs. We can figure out the rest together. I wanted to see how she would react to this smaller amount. She lifted her head. For a very brief moment, I saw cold contempt in her eyes. But she quickly hid her emotions and forced a smile. $1,000. Thank you. I'll never forget this. The next day, I withdrew $1,000 in cash and gave it to her. She took the money without much of a thank you. She said she had to rush to her hometown because of her mother, packed a few things into a small suitcase, and left. Before leaving, she tossed a careless remark over her shoulder. Look after the place. I'll be in touch. I knew it would be the last time I ever saw her. After she left, I looked around the empty apartment. The once warm space now felt cold and filled with lies. $1,000. That was the price of my naivety. Not too expensive, for a life lesson, I tried to tell myself, but the story wasn't over. I couldn't let those horrible scammers continue to toy with other people's lives. As expected, after Sophia left, she cut off all contact. Her phone number was disconnected, and her Elysian Connect profile vanished. The play was over, and I had been unceremoniously thrown off the stage. More painful than losing the money was the fact that my sincere feelings and trust had been so cruelly trampled. The once sweet memories now resurfaced as disgusting lies, tormenting me. I became quiet again, burying myself in work. The loneliness of the empty apartment after work was even more unbearable than before. But I couldn't let myself be broken. I thought of the other victims listed in her notebook. I searched online for keywords like online dating scam and romance scam. Reading countless heartbreaking stories, I found a small measure of comfort in knowing I wasn't alone. Eventually, I found an online forum for victims of romance scams. I gathered my courage and anonymously posted my story. From meeting Sophia to the moment I discovered the truth. I included the photos I had taken of the notebook as evidence. My post went viral almost instantly. And then, what I had been waiting for happened. Several people sent me private messages. They, too, had been scammed by a woman named Sophia Hayes using the exact same methods. The amounts they lost varied: $2,000, $3,000. One person even lost over $10,000. We created a private group chat, sharing our stories with people who had experienced similar pain. We comforted one another, and together, we resolved to bring her and her accomplices to justice. This was no longer just my fight. We pulled our evidence and filed a report with the police. But the investigation proceeded slowly. The scammers were meticulous, using burner phones and untraceable accounts. In the midst of this, something terrible happened to me. Somehow, Sophia found out that I was the one behind the investigation. She retaliated in the most vicious way possible. She took photos we had taken together, maliciously edited them, and wrote a story portraying me as a parasite who had targeted her for her money. She then emailed this fabricated story to the executives at my company. My company was a subsidiary of a foreign corporation and placed a high value on employee ethics and image. Ultimately, I was forced to resign for being a poor fit for the company culture. Having lost both my job and my reputation, I was completely broken. The dazzling city of New York was now just a place of scars for me. I packed my things and moved back home to Ohio. I couldn't bring myself to tell my parents the truth, so I just said I was taking a break due to company restructuring. Seeing my haggard appearance, my parents didn't ask any questions. My father simply patted my shoulder and said, "It's good to have you home. Home is the best place to be." My mother cooked a warm meal for me with all my favorite childhood dishes. The embrace of my family slowly began to heal my wounded soul. While living in my hometown and helping my parents, I gradually found peace. I realized the value of a simple life with family, as opposed to the glamorous life of the city. My wounds hadn't fully healed, but I was preparing for a fresh start. Then one afternoon, my mother rushed into the house, frantic. "Ethan, it's terrible. It's Laura. She's been scammed out of all her money." Aunt Laura was my mother's best friend, a kind-hearted woman who had been widowed early and lived alone. My mother and I rushed to her house. We found her sitting on the floor, staring blankly into space, crying. This was her story. A few months ago, she had met a man in an online hobby group who introduced himself as an American expat businessman living in Europe. He had proposed to her, promising they would live together in his beautiful home abroad. Shortly after, he claimed he had sent her an expensive gift, but it was being held up in customs. He asked her for money to cover the customs fees. Believing him, Aunt Laura sent him nearly $50,000, her entire life savings, plus money from selling a small plot of land. As soon as he received the money, he vanished like smoke. Listening to her story, the rage inside me boiled over again. In her devastated face, I saw a reflection of my past self. I could no longer stand by. "Aunt Laura, please don't worry. I'll help you. I've been through something similar. We might not get all the money back, but we have to make sure those monsters are caught." Seeing the determination in my eyes, my mother and Aunt Laura found a small glimmer of hope. I collected all the information she had left: messages, account numbers, phone numbers. This fight was not just for me anymore, it was for all the kind, unsuspecting victims like us. I contacted the people from my old victim support group and shared Laura's story. Astonishingly, we discovered that Sophia's scam and the one that targeted Aunt Laura were both operations run by one massive, sophisticated phishing and romance scam syndicate. They had different teams, one targeting young men, another targeting middle-aged women, and operated systematically. Even more shocking was the truth about Sophia's past. She herself had been a victim of the exact same type of scam when she was younger. She had lost her entire fortune and her life had been ruined. The trauma had left her with nothing but distrust and hatred for the world. Eventually, she chose a criminal path, inflicting the same pain on others that she had once suffered. With the crucial evidence we gathered, and the help of a pro bono lawyer, and the media, the police were finally able to dismantle the entire organization. On the day of the trial, I was in the courtroom. Dressed in a prison jumpsuit, Sophia looked small and pathetic. During her final statement, she tearfully apologized to me. "Ethan, I am so sorry. There were moments when your sincerity truly moved me, but in the end, I couldn't overcome the demon inside me." Hearing her sincere apology, I was finally able to let go of the hatred I had buried deep in my heart. After the case was closed, I started a new life in my hometown. Based on my experience, I founded a small nonprofit organization called Shield of Trust to prevent online fraud. I traveled to community centers and retirement homes, teaching seniors how to recognize and avoid scams. Through this meaningful work, I rediscovered my sense of purpose. A short time later, a local agricultural tech company, impressed by my skills and initiative, offered me a job. True love also found me unexpectedly. Her name was Hannah, a kindergarten teacher in town. We met by chance when I was giving a presentation to the parents at her school. Hannah was a warm and wise person who embraced all of me, including the scars of my past. A year later, we had a small wedding, surrounded by the blessings of our family and neighbors. Today, I don't have a glamorous rooftop restaurant or designer clothes, but I have something far more valuable, a true, sincere love and a peaceful happiness that I wouldn't trade for anything in the world. My story began like a violent storm, but I have finally dropped anchor in the safest, warmest harbor of my life. And I still tell my story to people to remind them that while love and trust are the most precious things in the world, the wisdom to protect yourself is just as important.